There he is.
Hi, Tom.
Hey, Wei, great to see you, man.
Great to see you too. So I'm just trying to sort out my lighting here at the moment. There we kind of.
Oh, there you
I
go.
guess.
You look good. Yeah, good. Hi.
Hi, I look good. I think I look like I'm in the Witness Protection Act. Hold on a second. Let me just see if I can fix this. Here we go. Here we
Even
are.
even better. Even better. Good. So, how's it going?
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, things have been moving on quite a bit since we last spoke, and and yeah, the business is trundling along. It was better last year. I think there's some big changes coming up at the moment, so I think that's probably what's happening right now. But yeah, but
So good timing for us to be able to dig in and see what's going on.
yeah, brilliant timing. Are you, are you still over in? Last time I knew you were in one of the Southeast Asian countries. I couldn't remember which one it was.
I'm in China.
You're in China now, right? Okay.
Yeah. Your your origin, I think. Hmm?
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
Do you speak
Well,
any Chinese?
I speak Cantonese because I speak the Hong Kong
What's
Chinese. My parents came from there. So, but even when I went
Cantonese?
there, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So even when I went there, I was a
Cool.
tourist.
Well, ni hao.
Oh, Leo Ma.
Okay.
This is the return question for the same thing.
Terrific. Well, I've just posted on the Facebook group a link to a web page I set up where I took the front end of the session with Desi Coster that we did some days ago, and it's a kind of actually pretty good orientation to the whole session process. Now, you know this whole thing so well, you don't need that. Okay, so, but what I've done is to post it there, and its purpose, and I announced it in the Facebook group, I posted it on the website, and its purpose is to orient people to what a session is about. So I explained muscle testing. I even explained the whole neutrino stream thing that kind of gives the science behind why it works at a distance. And I explained the where to start chart. I explained about the in and out techniques we now call core and C, in and out, because
Mm.
they translate a lot easier in Chinese, mainly. And so HSC has gone through some evolution. In China, we're calling it inner greatness optimizing.
Mhm.
Some people like the human software engineering analogy, but the acronyms didn't work so good for translation.
They
So we
won't translate,
simplified.
no.
No, it wouldn't translate at all. So in and out is what we call core and C now over here.
Mhm.
So in any case, yeah, so you don't need the orientation, and I've put that up there for people to see. And we have one observer today who's Petra, who is a student of mine in Slovenia, actually, who not that far away in terms of time zone for you
Yeah,
and for her.
if I remember rightly, was Petra around back in the older days as well? 'Cause I do remember you talking about some people in Slovenia, and Petra may have been one of them back there, but that was probably about 3 years ago now or something.
Yeah, we actually had a few of them come to one of the London seminars, as I recall.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. Yeah.
Anyway, this is Petra. She got involved in the last couple of years, so it's not she wasn't in that particular group,
Mm.
but she's doing really well with learning to do HSC from the online version of the training that we had. So in any case, she's observing.
Okay,
So
excellent.
so when I read your email and what's going on with you, it sounded like a perfect situation for this topic of Success 101, how to make fewer costly mistakes. And I've had some very good insights into this whole phenomena, and I'm sure we'll utilize some of them as we get into this.
Mm.
So Petra's just dropping a chat message saying thanks for allowing her to be involved. So that's great. You're most welcome. So let's get into it. Tell me a little bit more about what's going on, and let's clarify your intention.
Okay.
First I'm going to check. This is
Okay.
absolutely the optimal topic for the session for tonight. Yes, it's tonight for me, midday for you.
Okay. Yeah.
And there's something would be even better for us to work on. No, and the appropriate thing for us to do is to understand the situation and then clarify the intention. Yeah. Okay. Go for it.
Okay. The situation is there's some projects coming up. Well, one of which I've gotten more heavily involved in, and some other ones which I haven't, which I've been sort of dipping my toe into, but not fully getting in there. And I've come to the understanding that part of this is about not wanting to, it's not necessarily just not putting myself out there, but there's something about being visible, being seen, which is a bit of an irony because I present in front of groups of 150, 200 people and so on, complete strangers. So that's fine. Love that. One of my favorite things to do. But when it comes to the online aspects, when it comes to getting my book finished and written, when it comes to doing other things where I'm going to become more high profile, on the one hand, at a logical level, I know I want that. I know that's necessary for me to get the work and the mission out into the world. Yet on the other hand, there's something inside that's preventing it, which is a perfect sign from what we do here to know that there is something going on with one of the ins and outs and all the rest. So.
Exactly.
But unfortunately, there aren't many brain surgeons that do their own work or dentists that do their own root canals. So
the cobbler's children have no shoes.
Exactly. Yes. So the irony is I've helped other clients get to that place where I'm trying to get to, and I'm not getting there myself. So.
Okay, well, let's change that.
Yes, please.
So how would you like it to be?
I would like to be able to, whenever I get ideas of things which I know are great ideas, just to go ahead and do them. And also to not worry about being out in the world and what if it all goes wrong. If you don't do it, then it's definitely already gone wrong. So,
when you think about putting yourself out there, like writing a book and things like that, do you have the concern that people are going to in some way object or be nasty about it or not like it or anything like that?
Yes and no. I know that's going to happen. You're always going to get that happening. I think the worst part for me would be when it comes down to explaining it to somebody. Explaining it.
Explaining it.
Yeah, and putting it in a way that makes sense and is understandable. And halfway through doing that, I sort of feel like I don't want to do this. I don't want to tell them.
Interesting. Now, by explaining it, you mean explaining what you do?
It's a tricky one. That's part of it, but then I'm doing that at exhibitions all the time. This is the real paradox of this one. It's not as straightforward as to say I can't talk to anybody about it, but it's only in certain contexts. And I spoke with one of my coaches previously. One of the contexts is I can talk to people directly because that's just happening in the moment. But when it's something that might be permanent, something that might stay out there, like if I write articles and they get published and go out there, if I'm doing things which will remain available. Whereas if I'm just speaking it, if I change my mind later, I'm going to say, well, no, I don't think I said that.
Okay. So is it a concern that it's like not going to be perfect or something similar?
Logically, I know there must be some part of that in there, but it doesn't resonate when I think of it like that.
Okay. And so let's say it in a more concise way how you would like it to be.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So I have a
I
good,
would,
clear, simple,
yeah,
straightforward, concise intention statement.
yeah. I would like to be known worldwide for my work.
So let's get rid of the like part and just say I am
Mm-hmm. Okay. I am known
well known,
worldwide for my work.
well known.
I am well known worldwide for my work.
Yeah, it's better, huh? It'll elicit it more.
Yeah. That's
Okay,
right, because
so
I
say
do
it
like it
again.
already. That already happens, yeah. Yeah.
So say it again, and I'm going to muscle test for you.
Hmm.
This is optimal now. Yeah, go ahead.
I am well liked for my work worldwide.
That's interesting. You're already resonating with that.
Hmm.
So there must be some other corollary or additional intention that you'd like, something else that does have barriers to it, because you obviously you're kind of struggling with this.
Hmm.
So what else is it that you'd like besides just people liking your work worldwide?
Well, obviously, I'd like to have a successful business doing it. I want a successful business doing that work.
Sorry, it broke up a little bit. Say
Yeah,
again.
yeah. I said, obviously, I want to have a successful business doing that work.
Yeah, there's a financial part to it.
There is definitely. And
Let's see if we can get some insight from the core dynamics model. I just tested from it, and the one that came up is the lower left is the overreacting to circumstances.
mm-hmm.
So there's something in the area of creating expectations and not having the expectations met. There's something related to that.
Yeah. Maybe even creating others' expectations and worried that I won't meet their expectations.
Yep, that's
Mm-hmm.
part of it.
Mm-hmm.
That's part of it. The other part of it may have to do with the distinction between expectation and intention.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a tendency to quantify your expectations, like so much by such and such a time? Do you kind of do that?
Maybe.
Like I make 100,000 pounds next month, something like that.
Yeah.
Do you,
Yeah.
do you have a tendency? Do you have a tendency to do that?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. So one partial aspect of this has to do with clearing up the distinction between creating expectations and perceiving intentions.
Mm-hmm.
And I think intellectually you understand this distinction, but there's something going on that's not letting you implement the distinction properly.
Mm-hmm.
So that because we see there are 4 different kinds of thoughts that influence our decision making. There are 2 useful kinds and 2 not useful kinds. The useful kinds are practical thoughts, like making a shopping list, getting directions, just stuff that we need to do. We have lots of them. They're practical. There's no emotional charge to them. They're fine. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
we need them. Our intuitive thoughts, which are also our creative thoughts, are the ones that we're perceiving something that's coming, a possible future reality that we could step into. It's like an intention.
Mm-hmm.
And again, there's no emotional charge to them. They have a tendency to kind of speak once, kind of quietly, and we miss a lot of them. And the reason we miss a lot of them is that we tend to have a lot of the other 2 kinds of thoughts that are not useful. And those 2 kinds of thoughts are ego-based thoughts and our emotional pain-based thoughts.
Mm.
And basically, the ego-based thoughts are mainly have out technique energies, the C technique energies, and the emotional pain-based thoughts, obviously, core technique, or we now call it in technique.
Mm.
And the problem is that all of these come as thoughts. And the vast majority of people don't even know to make the distinction between these four different kinds of thoughts. And so lots and lots of actions and decisions get made based on thoughts that are created by or driven by these disruptive emotions, both the in and out technique emotions. And this has a tendency to manifest itself in the overreacting and the creating of expectations, in the projection of possible negative outcomes onto the future. I mean, you know all this stuff intellectually, right?
Mm.
So what we want to do is, in this case of this sort of held backness, which seems to be a sort of central thing for you,
Mm.
the held backness is being influenced by a number of factors. Four different factors influencing it, and all four of them are based on ego or emotionally pain-based thoughts.
Mm.
Yeah. Okay. So what we want to do to get at the heart of this, and this will help us even, I think, to clarify the intention, okay,
Mm.
is we'll figure out what those ego and emotional pain-based thoughts are, how many of each, there are, and hopefully this will help us to clarify what it is that we need to do to get your intention even more clear, because that's part of the problem is your intention is not completely clear. Because you're okay about being liked and known worldwide, no problem. You're already resonating with that. So it's something else, okay?
Mm-hmm.
These are fun kind of sessions. We have to dig a little bit.
Well, as you can expect, most of the surface and easy bits I've already done.
But it's very interesting because quite a few people who are having these demo sessions are like you. They've already learned how to do this. They do it actually quite well. But just like you were saying, the brain surgeon doesn't operate on himself. The problem is that it's easier to see something in somebody else because they're inside of their out technique energy fields that are their ego-based thoughts. You're not inside of it. So you can see it from the outside already, but you're inside your own. And so being inside your own, it's much more difficult to see them, particularly the ones that have been around for, a lifetime.
Mm.
And so that's why it's great to have like a community. And I'm doing some work to actually really build the community so that people can really be connected and support each other, give sessions and stuff to each other, because it's so valuable to do buddy. I mean, I've had a buddy coach for like 10 years,
Mm.
and it's great because sometimes he'll catch something that I'm not seeing, it's wonderful.
Mm.
So in any case, there's also another recent development that really helps to make the unconscious nature of the ego-based thoughts much more conscious. And that's something that's called the freedom practice that I've developed just in the past half year or so. And toward the end, I'll tell you more about it because it's really very cool. I'm seeing accelerated progress in a group of about 35 presenters I'm training here in China. Mm-hmm. They're having experiences in a month or two that used to take a year or two to occur.
Right.
So there's a huge acceleration of this process of making the unconscious conscious and then resolving the causes of the unconsciousness. So I'll explain more about it later. Mm-hmm. So what we want to do is we want to figure out what these four not useful energies at the basis of four ego and emotionally pain-based thoughts are. So 1, 2, 3. There are 3 of them that are emotional pain-based and 1 that's ego-based. And we need to know more about them. Yes. Okay. Each of them is in some way related to this whole issue that Wei has brought up about feeling sort of held back and not really fully putting himself out there. Yes. Okay. Start, usually start with in technique. This one, start with the out technique. Okay. This out technique has to do with some form of projecting a possible negative outcome onto the future that is kind of non-specific. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like, if I really put myself out there, it's like something bad will happen. Hmm?
Mm-hmm.
Can you relate to that?
Yeah.
Yeah, from what you were saying before, that makes a lot of sense. So
Mm.
it's not a specific fear. Now, the origin of fears like this tend to be having had some kind of experience that was like that. So
Mm.
that something you did, and in some way it was problematic. I mean, you did something and you got either criticized or ridiculed or punished or, victimized in some kind of way, and
Mm.
it was a little bit traumatic. Right? This is part of what has occurred in the past. Yes, okay, because typically these out technique energies, very frequently they'll have an in technique origin, right?
Mm.
So you get some traumatic experience and you don't want it to happen again, and so then you project the possibility that it might, and then you start living in that story and believing your own lie to yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and this is problematic. Okay, and that's what we call an ego-based thought. Okay? Is it making sense?
Yep. Completely makes
Totally.
sense.
Yeah. Good. So so we have this one ego-based thought, which is the projection of a possible negative outcome onto the future, and actually we have three different experiences that you had that produced a kind of trauma related to this whole issue of putting yourself out there. And some of these happened when you were quite young. Yeah, it happened when you were quite young. So we need to know what they were. No, thank goodness. I'm so happy that we don't need to know. Don't have to dig in the pile.
Yeah.
However, we can approach the in technique energies completely with just using the locate technique. Yeah. And the out technique energy, we know what this one is. This is the projection of possible negative outcome onto the future, that if you really put yourself out there, something bad is going to happen. And it has, it's reasonable to have created that kind of projection based on the traumatic experiences that you've had in the past. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not helpful, but it's understandable that one would do that. Okay. So we're going to resolve the out technique energy first. Okay.
Mm.
We usually get the in technique ones first because they're kind of causal, but for some reason, I think what it's going to do is it's going to give us easier access
Yeah.
to the in technique energy if we clear the out technique energy first. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So fortunately, you know how to do it. I'm gonna say a little bit, like guiding you through it a little bit, even though you know how to do it, just for the sake of people who'll be watching the recording so that they understand what's going on. So go
Of
ahead and
course.
close your
Yeah.
eyes.
Okay.
Yeah. And you can use the GPS, we now call it the locate technique. Just go into the quietness by looking off to the side of your thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and when you have a sense of it, just tell the body to show you the out technique energy that is the fear or anxiety, however we want to call it, of the projection of the possible negative outcome onto the future, that if you really put yourself out there, that something painful or problematic is going to occur.
Yeah.
Yeah, and of course you immediately feel that the cloud of energy, and you
Mm-hmm.
know how to do the out technique. Go find the quietness that's out beyond the edge.
Mm-hmm.
Go a little deeper into the quietness to get the distinction between the energy and the quietness even more clear. And then go deep into the quietness, quite far from the energy field. And allow yourself to notice how vast and limitless the quietness is.
Okay.
And now as you look back on the cloud of energy you were inside of just moments ago, what's happening to it now?
Well, it's gotten further away, I've gotten further away from it, but there's still a piece of it, or still something present of it.
Okay.
There's a whole great big galactic space type scene going on, but it's still a
Uh-huh.
planet in the distance.
Okay. So go even further into the quietness,
Hmm.
away from all that stuff.
Hmm.
The remaining substance of the energy, the thing that's still kind of holding it in place,
Hmm.
is the story that you have that something bad might happen.
Hmm.
And you've been running this story kind of inadvertently, like not even completely aware that it's been going on.
Hmm.
Kind of partially aware, but not aware enough to, when you're inside the energy cloud, you know how it is. You've done this
Hmm.
hundreds of times. And with clients, when you're inside the energy cloud, it's so hard to see it
Hmm.
because you're inside of it and you're looking through it, and it makes it seem so real that you kind of don't question it. But we're going to question it now. Is it preventing something negative from happening to allow this story to continue to be present in your awareness?
Sorry, could you ask me that again?
Yeah, is it helping to prevent something negative from happening to continue to allow this story to be present in your awareness, like to have the
Oh, right.
project?
No, I don't
No,
think
not
it's
at all.
not actually preventing anything. In fact, it's causing things. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And so is it improving your life or helping you have the life that you want in any way to continue to allow this story to be present in your awareness?
No,
And is it a good investment of your life energy to allow it to continue to be there?
definitely not.
Okay, and now that you're outside the energy field, do you feel a sense of kind of empowerment or choice about whether you allow it to be there or not?
Yeah.
Yeah, all you have to do is basically decide that you're not going to give this particular thought any more energy. It's kind of like the recognition that you've just been kind of doing this inadvertently, just as sort of like a bad habit that you're only been partially aware of. You get that?
Hmm.
Yeah, and so now you're so much more aware of it. We've made the unconscious element of it conscious. And so now it's easy to notice it if it starts to rear its ugly head out of nothingness, and you just unplug the power cord. You don't allow the thought to even formulate. Okay?
Hmm. Hmm.
And the moment you decide that, the energy tends to just collapse back into nothingness along with the story.
Hmm.
Okay, great. This is resolved now. Yeah, good job. I, I knew you would be brilliant at this.
I don't want to be too
Yeah.
brilliant for the sake of the other people watching this.
Well, I have to say that I was always very proud of you. You're one of my best students in the UK, and
Thank you.
your dedication to doing this is very admirable. I've really like
I'm,
respected and
yeah.
appreciated.
Thank you. I'm
Yeah.
still actually presenting the emotional mastery work at exhibitions and places like that, and telling them to go look Tom Stone up.
That's great. Well, I've been quite busy in China for the last 3.5 years setting up these inner greatness centers. And now my spiritual advisors have told me it's time to pick it up again in the US.
Hmm.
And then I have the feeling that shortly after that, I'm going to pick it up in all the English speaking countries. I'm doing
Yeah.
a ton of work online now
Mm.
to create some online version of this new Freedom from Illusions, Freedom Practice program, which I'll tell you more about later. So, okay, so the out technique energy is completely resolved. Yes, okay. And we now want to address these three inner traumatic energies that were really at the basis of this. And again, it's appropriate for us to use locate technique, better to find the circumstances and situations so we know what it is. No, we don't need that. Okay, good. So go ahead and close your eyes, do locate technique, and find the first one. The body knows the priority of which one comes first. You know that. And in fact, you know how to resolve all three of them. So I'm not gonna bother describing it. People can get that from some of the other demos. You just go ahead and resolve all three, and let me know when you're done. Great.
Okay. Well,
I
first
love
one appeared.
working.
First one appeared right there, just
There you
above the
go.
solar plexus. Yeah. So.
Okay. Go for it. Love working with people who know how to do this.
Do we still use the special core or a special in?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Right.
I call it the first and second way now. The first way is just
Right.
feeling into the central, strongest part. Second way is doing the eye of the hurricane thing, which, as you well know, is even more efficient. Terrific.
Not to cause further confusion for people, second one has appeared, but it's not so much. It's an in energy, but it's not just fully in the physical body. Work on that one.
Okay. So
It's about a foot out to in front of me, but
yeah, this
I know it's still one of those in energies.
yeah, sure. This can be some people describe this as the subtle bodies, like layers of body that are not physical. And certainly you can have emotional energy stored there. Yeah. Yeah, go right ahead. Yeah, appropriate to shift to the second one. Yeah, first one's resolved, huh?
Okay, this was a little more nebulous, bit more difficult finding the center of this one.
Don't try hard.
Okay.
Just notice it. Bring your awareness a little closer to the energy field. And just have the knowing that the clarity of it is going to present itself to you. Actually, this is one of those energies, you'll remember this about anxiety and depression, that it kept dancing around the outer edge of this energy.
That's
And
what it feels
so
like, yeah.
the technique for resolving this kind is to allow yourself to feel the entire field of the energy, including the center of it. The center of it you've been avoiding because it's been actually pretty painful historically. Okay? So if you allow yourself to feel the whole thing, including the center, then the most intense part of it in the center will gradually emerge and show itself to you.
Okay, I think we got that one.
Okay.
And now the third one is definitely a solar plexus like one.
Okay. Very common emotional storage hard drive.
This one seems to be just a solid object.
Yeah, they can definitely feel like that.
Mm.
Kind of hard, and whatever the quality of it is, like if it's kind of steel-like or brick-like or whatever it is,
Mm.
just go to the place where that particular quality feels the most concentrated.
Mm.
Yeah, sometimes it's kind of like a steel ball, and you have to kind of feel right into the center of it.
Sounds like blue kryptonite.
There you go.
Okay.
Okay. So because we're using the locate technique, we want to make sure we really got it all. So go back into the quietness and just check out with the body if there's anything more, any backup copies, any more aspect of these in technique energies that are at the root of this issue of you holding yourself back.
Yeah, there's still something. I think it's an out. It's a very, very subtle out technique, out energy.
Okay. Okay.
Although not
So
so
go
subtle
ahead
because
and
I can feel it both my temple and just beside my head here. So maybe it's not as subtle as I think it is. It was. It's
well,
subtly noticeable. Yeah,
regardless of subtle or not, it's just a pattern of
yeah,
energy. So go for it.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, just about past Jupiter.
Sorry.
It goes to just about past Jupiter.
Wow. It's a big one. Not so subtle after all. Wow. At least big.
More, yeah, maybe more difficult to notice because it encompasses all the inner planets. So, right,
Sure.
okay.
Sure.
And this is one of the great things about doing things in this way is that I certainly get it. A lot of my clients get it. You can just sense things going on in your body. The moment you hit the edge of that field, you get some other change of feeling, like a different buzz, a
Yes.
different sensation. That's when you kind of know you're
Yes.
there.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually the moment right in the moment where you cross over the outer boundary of the energy, you come out of being caught in illusion and you come into the clarity of the experience of your true essential nature.
Mm.
So there's a kind of inability for the illusion and the energy field to maintain the integrity of seeming real anymore because you've gone out of illusion into reality, the reality of what you truly are. And so then the energy field can't hold up anymore. It just starts to
Yeah.
shrink and fade away and dissolve.
Yeah. The great
So,
and really as an analogy I love for this one, explaining this one is that when Toto pulls back the curtain in The Wizard of Oz, and there's a little guy behind her pushing the buttons, and he tries to maintain the illusion that he's this great, almighty, scary wizard, but they've already seen him standing there behind the curtain pushing the buttons, and it's too late.
that's great. That's really great. That's a very good analogy. Wonderful. I like that. The jig is up.
Yeah. There, I think that's it. There's a lot of buzzing going around in the head at the moment.
Something we need to do about the buzzing? No,
No.
that's just kind of the residual, dust blowing away.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. There's still some energy in Wai's system that's still in some way contributing to this blockage issue. Yes. And we need to find it as an in or out technique energy. No. Okay.
Hmm.
This one is actually some kind of intellectual understanding that's needed. Yes. Okay, interesting. Occasionally it's like this. Actually, it's more commonly like this for people who've been doing this for some years, like you have, okay?
Hmm.
Because you've already cleared out so many of your disruptive emotional energies that sometimes there's a habit of thinking that's there that really doesn't have any emotional basis to it, but there's a lingering habit that just requires getting a new perspective or making a decision or making a commitment or something like that,
Hmm.
something that's more, almost hate to use the word cognitive,
It's still part of
but
us, like it or not.
certainly is. And under these circumstances, there's something like that that we need to just discuss and help you get a different perspective on it.
Hmm.
Okay? And the intuition that's coming to me regarding this is it has to do with how to be present to and deal with people criticizing or not liking what you do, or confronting you about it in some way. It's really interesting. I've been not involved with Facebook almost at all for, the whole time I've had an account there, like years. And I rarely have gone there and checked anything. But recently, I saw some stuff about building huge audiences on Facebook and kind of how to do that. And so
Hmm.
I've started the last week or so, I've just been like all day on Facebook and also on the website building, sites, landing pages and stuff for people to visit. And in the process, one of the transformation topics that you've seen on the list is transforming grief into joy.
Hmm.
So one of the things I did was to go join a bunch of grief support groups on Facebook. And what I would do is I'd post some little post about being able to help with this thing. And either the administrators or some kind of watchdogs in this group would go check out my pages and site and see that I have a business and assume, even though all these demos I'm doing are completely free, and they would assume that I'm, trying to elicit some business. And in every case, they're like so attached and identified with their grief. They don't actually really want to get over their grief. They just want to stay around and talk to each other and complain about it. It's like there's an identification with being a grieving person.
Yeah.
And so I found that these support groups are just filled with people who they would say, "Oh, you're a snake oil salesman," and they just say all these sort of nasty things, completely judging what I'm doing without knowing anything about it. It's like amazing. It's like, talk about ego-based thoughts.
Yeah,
And
because if they
so,
knew if they knew what this was about,
oh
or
man, if they knew what this is about,
unless a part
yeah,
of
I
them
mean, I don't,
does know, and that's the fear, they might lose their identity of being a grieving person, and they will.
yeah,
If they do this, they will.
that's right. That's exactly right. Just a few days ago, I did a session for a woman who lost her husband last August, and she's been struggling with her grief all this time. And in one session, not only did we get rid of the grief, we also got rid of the related anger and fear. Like in one session, and completely gone. She's just totally happy. And
Hmm.
this is, as you well know, this is like typical. Yeah. So the reality is, and we can talk about this topic now, I think we'll really get it. Okay. The reality is that in every market, there are early adopters. Okay. These are the people who are hungry for what you have, who really want what you have. Yeah? And when you show it to them, they're like totally thrilled and delighted to finally find something that really works. Okay. And so these are our customers. These are our market. Okay? Now, the second stage of development of something like this is when it becomes so well established and so scientifically validated so that it has authority behind it, that it's approval and, so people can look to the people they usually look to, the authorities, for telling them what to do. This is the mass market, right? And so there's a certain point at which, if you do it properly, there's a certain point where it's called the tipping point, about that, is it tips over and you start to get people from the mass market involved in what you're doing. Okay? And then there's a last segment of the population that's never going to do it. Okay? They're so deeply entrenched in their identifications and their illusions that, at least in this lifetime, it's not going to happen for them. Like a whole lot of people in these grief support groups are probably like that. You know? So the thing is that you need to be in a place of dealing with the reality of these different kinds of groups, because you're going to get the flack from the people, just like I did from the people in the grief support groups. You know, you're going to get that. And you're going to feel emotional reactions to that. And those emotional reactions are actually they're not useful emotions. They're actually useful emotions. Because what they teach you is they teach you to make the distinction of where to put your time and your attention. Okay?
Yeah.
It's like I just went in and deleted myself from all those support groups because it's like total waste of time. I mean, and then I found a site where it's about energy medicine. Okay? It's a wonderful site about energy medicine. There's like 6,000 members in this group, right? And the guy who's like posting the information there, the guy who's responsible for it, very open-minded, very, like interested in new stuff. And a woman asked a question about, is there some natural remedy for high blood pressure, some holistic approach to high blood pressure? And so I made a rather lengthy series of posts describing to her exactly how we can deal with the very, very common fundamental problem of not being able to resolve emotional stress, and the emotional stress contributing to or causing the high blood pressure.
Yeah.
Well, there's been tons of interest and stuff. And what it did for me is it made me realize that not just giving a demo session on helping somebody, change their blood pressure, but turn it into an evidence-based study. And actually have people take an assessment and provide their pre and post blood pressure readings and do a whole bunch of those. So we get up to a number that's actually statistically significant, depending on the effect size and everything like that. And then we've really got something that becomes a tool for helping to push into the second level of where people are going to really accept it and adopt it. Because, the religion of our day is science, right?
Yeah.
This is what people believe in.
Yeah.
So anyway, that led to last night. I'm almost finished. That led to last night realizing that I could do exactly the same thing for the transform depression into happiness, transform anxiety into serenity, transform grief into joy. I can do exactly the same thing for all of these and really substantiate it with the data. Okay, that's the dogma of the new religion, is data, right?
Yeah.
So it turned out that this whole sequence of not getting the kind of response from the grief support groups and then getting a terrific response from people who, are in the early adopter part of the picture, the usefulness of the negative feeling that was coming from the people in the grief support groups was actually, it turned out actually to be very, very useful. Okay? Because I just allowed myself to be with it and get the message that, hey, you don't belong here. Get out of here. This is not your market. This is not the people that you're here to talk to. Okay? And this is what you need, is you need to have the ability to distinguish that there are going to be people who are going to object. There are going to be people who are going to wait until the authority tells them that this is good. And then there's your real market, which is your early adopters, the people who really are already like hungry for what it is that you have. And you want to put your attention there. Okay. And you want to know that if you're not getting that kind of response from people, they're in one of the other two groups. Don't waste your time. Right?
Yeah.
And don't waste your own emotional energy on thinking that the emotional reactions that you're having are bad. They're not bad. They're there to inform you that this is not the right direction to take. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I think this is exactly what you need, because if you have a sense of being okay with making those distinctions and allowing yourself to put your attention where it's going to, do some good for the people who really need it, and not worry about the the mass market and the people who are never going to go for it, just don't worry about them, because some portions of the second group will eventually come around.
Yeah.
That's okay. And in the meantime, the early adopter group is in the millions anyway. So there's plenty of people. It's not like there's just a handful. It's tons of people.
Yeah.
So there's something more about this particular topic we still need to discuss. Yes. It has to do with the useful, not useful emotion part of it. Yes. So what you've been experiencing is when people are critical or doubtful or questioning, okay, you've been taking that a little bit too personally. You've been feeling like that this is about you, but it's not about you. What they're saying is just the expression of their own ego-based and emotional pain-based thoughts. It actually has nothing to do with you. You're just kind of like a catalyst that's triggered those reactions from them because they've got a lot of that inside of them. They actually need what we've got more than anybody, but they're not ready to hear it. They're not ready to hear it. And if they're not ready to hear it, even the best enrollment conversations are not going to do it.
Yeah, well, this is exactly what's been happening. Whereas last year, everything was working fine. I was going to a lot of these mind, body, and spirit exhibitions, and the way I present myself is not from the woo-woo side. In fact, if anything, I'm coming at these exhibitions as the weirdo in there because I'm not weird enough about it. I can get weird. I can get weird if you like, but I deliberately go. The whole point is, look, so we've got to get practical and things as well.
Exactly.
And that was working fine all through last year. And up until this year, I've been doing exactly the same thing, going to the same places, in fact, I've improved my presentations, I've improved my workshops and so on, but it's not working anymore. I had a whole run of about 60 enrollment conversations where I think I got about 3 clients when I used to get a 1 in 4. So I think what's happened is that started making me doubt what I was doing. And I've always known that this market was not permanent. It was always a stepping stone.
I have an idea for how to get an answer for this.
Yeah.
So when you're in this kind of situation and something that used to work doesn't work, the not working part is actually your, we could say, higher self attempting to inform you that some change is needed, right?
Yeah.
Now, the problem is we do have a tendency, we could say a lifelong habit, of attempting to figure that out with the mind. But this is actually an aspect of ego-based thinking, a kind of sneaky one. And so we have a remedy for that, and that's what we used to call agape. We now call it the wisdom technique.
Okay.
And what you do is you just go deep into pure awareness, and you just have a very gentle intention that the clarity of what to do about this whole situation for your business, that the clarity of what to do comes to you. Let's do it right now. So go into pure awareness, deep into pure awareness. You know how to do that. And the way you do this is you have just a very gentle intention to know and be completely open to something totally off the wall, something that you've never considered before, or not. Maybe it's just some simple minor modification, could be anything. But you're just open to it being whatever it is. And so you just kind of drop that intention to know into the quietness, and then just wait and see what the universe, nature, however you want to call it, has to say about the picture. And don't look hard for an answer. Just allow it to come if it's going to come. And you might get something now, or it might not be time to know yet, and it's going to come to you later. But you've made your request, and now we're waiting for the autoresponder from the universe.
Hmm.
You get anything?
Not immediately. The message that I got was that it won't be immediately.
That it won't be immediately?
That was the message that I got.
Okay. Okay. So what that means is that the universe has this principle. It operates on the law of least effort, right?
Hmm.
You've heard me talk about that in the past. This is the antithesis of trying to force an outcome, right?
Yeah.
Because the universe knows the perfect timing of when to give you the answer to the query that you just made.
Yeah.
Because it knows that if you get it too soon, you might take some action on it in the wrong timing. Okay?
Hmm.
So it's going to give it to you not only right in the moment, but very likely in a whole sequence of exactly right moments. This is that concept of responding spontaneously to the needs of the moment with the fullness of your being. Remember that expression. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not necessarily going to be just one thing that you're going to get, but there's going to be a sense of rightness about your decisions that you will get, and it won't even necessarily be like a fully formulated thought. It'll just be a sense of, oh, okay, yeah, this feels right to go in this direction, to do this. Okay? And that will be something that will come to you just on an ongoing basis from time to time. And you won't know ahead of time. You'll only know in the moment when you need to know.
Mm.
This is the way the universe works. It's very, very efficient. So you have to be completely okay with just being in the uncertainty of not knowing until you know.
Yeah.
But you can do that. You don't need to do any in or out technique energies in order to be able to do that. You can do that.
Mm.
Yes, you can. Okay. Something more about this particular topic that we still need to discuss. Yes. Okay. Cool. So this phenomena is called spontaneous right action. And from the way you were describing it before, you're kind of thinking you need a plan, a new plan, because the old plan isn't working.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you did the old way, like last year, did you actually plan it, or did it happen kind of more or less spontaneously and then you just sort of responded to it?
It was probably a mixture of both. In terms of there wasn't a great grand strategy built out for the next 5 years or anything like that. It was probably almost operating just a few months at a time, a couple of months at a time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So this again has to do with the distinction between ego-based thoughts and intuitive thoughts.
Mm.
And there's a refinement of your process that would be extremely valuable for you to do. Okay? And I'm going to explain to you what to do. Okay? And it has to do with being able to recognize and catch more of the ego-based and sometimes emotionally pain-based thoughts than you're currently doing.
Mm-hmm.
Because in order to get that distinction and not just recognize the ego and emotionally pain-based thoughts, but immediately deal with the energy that's at the source of them, as you clean those out more and more and more, you're going to be increasingly present to your intuitive creative thoughts and much less distracted by and insidiously not recognizing and doing something about the ego-based thoughts which cause you to make the mistakes. I mean, this is exactly what this topic of Success 101 is about, is how to make fewer costly mistakes. So the thing that's causing the costly mistakes is having ego-based thoughts and acting on them, thinking that it's going to give you what you want, so that the operating is coming from thinking rather than from knowing.
Right.
Now, you may recall when we did the training in the UK, I'm pretty sure I would have taught you this thing. It's called the presence technique, like when you're presenting.
Yeah.
And it has, you remember it has these 3 steps to it. You go into pure awareness, then you allow yourself to just feel what's present in the audience, and then you let that draw out of you exactly the right thing to say or do.
Right.
And so you need to be doing that. You need to be doing that process regarding this topic.
Right.
So when you have some idea about some marketing or some thing to pursue to get clients or presentations or whatever, then the thing to do is the moment you recognize that you're having that thought, first thing to do is muscle test whether this thought is ego-based or emotionally pain-based or intuitive or practical.
Right.
The muscle testing pulls you out of the mind into the knowing of the body, and it'll give you the right answer. But you have to remember to do that, okay?
Right.
This is actually the way the freedom practice works. I'm going to explain it to you now, okay?
Okay.
You start by doing like 20 minutes or so daily, like in the morning or something.
Mm-hmm.
And what you do is you first go deep into pure awareness, and then you just stay there. And what happens is you start having thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
And what you do is you muscle test. For each thought that comes, you muscle test which of the 4 kinds of thoughts that influence your decision making they are. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
If it's practical, you don't really have to do anything about it. You can do it later. If you remember the thought later, that's fine. If it's intuitive, it may even be the beginning of a whole stream of intuitive creative thoughts, one after the other. That's common once you get into this. And so then, I've created whole new programs and sitting and doing this for like 3 hours early in the morning. Fantastic. Now I spend the day writing it up.
So remind me what the 4 types of thoughts were again.
Yeah. Practical, intuitive, these are the 2 useful ones, and ego-based and emotionally pain-based. These are the 2 not useful ones.
Mm-hmm.
The ego ones are typically out technique energies. The emotional pain-based ones are typically in technique energies, but it's also not certainly not always, and frequently there's not it's a mixture. It can be some of both. You can have multiple energies of both, actually. Okay? So don't be attached to, if it's ego-based, it's going to be out technique, and if it's emotionally pain-based, it's going to be in technique. Could be either way. Okay, but it's a general guideline as to what they are. Mm-hmm. This is exactly what Eckhart Tolle talks about in his writings about the ego and the pain body. But because he had a spontaneous spiritual awakening, it didn't seem to come with a roadmap. So his explanations for a great many people I've talked to, his writings are beautiful, the way he describes his experience, but the actual instruction of what to do to resolve the ego and the pain body, these are not clear enough for most people to replicate his experience. Okay, right. So fortunately, I've had the great blessing of being able to understand exactly what to do. And this freedom practice has kind of been like the last missing piece. And the reason it's so effective, it has 2 phases to it. The first phase is you do it in the morning, or anytime when you have free time, but regularly. You do it every day. And then you do something which is to write what's called a freedom practice report. And this is just a few lines of what happened. I had this thought, I muscle tested, it was an ego-based thought. I did the out technique, it resolved it, I'm back to feeling balanced and centered and present. Like just a few sentences. And then you send that to me. And you do that every day. and you make a commitment to yourself and to me to do it every day,
Mm-hmm.
and it gives me the opportunity to kind of mentor you on the subtleties of what's going on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
So the second phase of this is that as you do this, your awareness of ego-based and emotionally pain-based thoughts starts to increase just naturally, just by doing a bunch of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so what happens is you start to recognize during the day when there's a thought that would be valuable to muscle test, whether it's ego or emotionally pain-based, and you'll start finding, yeah, there's a whole lot more of those than you ever would have imagined.
Right.
And so you start having the freedom practice get integrated into your daily life. And when you find an ego or emotionally pain-based, when you stop what you're doing immediately, close your eyes, you do the locate technique, you find the energy and you resolve it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what this does is just what I was telling you earlier. It accelerates the process of having the shift occur from less and less ego and emotionally pain-based thoughts to more and more practical and intuitive thoughts. Now, there's another element to this program. It's called a decision influences assessment. Okay? And you can go on the website. I'll send you a link. You can go on the website and I'll let you purchase this. Okay. It's $27 US.
Okay.
And it doesn't take me long to create it, so I can make it really cheap. So I'm going to create for you a decision influences. What it tells us is to what extent are your decisions being influenced by the practical thoughts, the intuitive thoughts, the ego-based thoughts, and the emotional pain-based thoughts. Now, typically when I do this for people, if they haven't been doing our work, then the ego and emotionally pain-based thought influence levels can be quite high, in the 50s, 60s, whatever. Now, these numbers don't add up to 100. It's not like percentages, right? It's just because multiple influences can be there for any given decision that you would have. So what it does is it gives us a baseline. It tells us where the attention is most needed, like somebody who's got like up in the 60s, in terms of influence of ego-based thoughts, they need a lot of attention to identifying and resolving those ego-based thoughts, because those are ruining their decisions.
Yeah. So is this similar to the template we had before for the Ideal Life program, where we were identifying which areas that they had more of an imbalance?
That's a little different.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's a little different. The Optimize Your Life program was a specific set of, 7 or 8 categories, and then, something like 75 or whatever different actual topics. That's one way of getting at stuff that you wouldn't necessarily get at. But the freedom practice is actually even better, because you integrate it into your life. So you're actually doing it like it just becomes a part of how you are. And this is actually the way to become truly emotionally competent, because we've been missing this element of the insidious, invisible nature of the ego-based thoughts. I'll send you a link to this little video of the, Deepak Chopra and David Hawkins and a bunch of guys talking, psychology experts talking about the ego and how insidious it is and how it hides within itself and how it makes you think your thought, that its thoughts are your thoughts. It's amazing. They can see the problem, but they don't offer any solution. They just see the problem. They understand the problematic nature of it because of the deep conditioning that occurs. But we have the solution. And the key to the solution is pulling yourself out of the mind and into the body with the muscle testing. Because the body knows that it's an ego-based thought. The mind doesn't know. The mind is the problem. Right? So I'm so happy with this development, because this is giving us a breakthrough that's been needed to support everybody who's involved in this work. And yeah, so this is the key to shifting the balance more and more in the direction of intuitive thoughts and less in the direction of ego and emotionally pain-based thoughts. Another aspect of this to understand is that you've heard me talk about that there are two different levels of living in pure awareness all the time. One of them is like partly cloudy day, where you can see the sky all the time, but there's still a bunch of clouds, right? And then there's an even higher level where it's like pretty much pure blue sky. I mean, yeah, maybe a storm blows by every now and then, but you're so good at this by that time. You just deal with it. It's like, gone. Okay, a little wispy thing, no problem. Okay, so it doesn't disrupt the groundedness in the presence of that expansiveness just being there all the time. Well, when you're in that kind of state, it means that you're principally operating from your intuitive thoughts. And that's what we want. That's what we want to create, is a situation where you just don't make decisions based on your ego and emotionally pain-based thoughts anymore. You whittle those down until they're nothing. This is the way to get access to them. If you don't make this distinction, then you just keep having those kind of thoughts and you keep missing that those are driven by disruptive emotions.
Right.
So this is a truly great development. It's a real milestone. And now I'm shifting the whole training in this work. So this whole program comes first. And I'm going to be training freedom practice mentors, okay, to do what I do with the reviewing of stuff. Okay? You're a candidate for that.
Thank you.
And there are a few other people who were in the training in the UK who will be candidates for that. Yeah, we're going to get things moving again, both for the UK and US. I've been haven't been able to spread myself thin like that. But this year I'm focusing on making China independent of me. Because last year I was giving lots of basic trainings and advanced trainings, but I can only be in one city at a time, and I want this training to be in all the major cities in China, every month. So that's why I've got a really good team. I mean, these people are really exhibiting the signs of living in pure awareness all the time so fast. I mean, just in a few months, they're having experiences that haven't used to be seeing them for like at least 1 or 2 years from the old, just standard HSC method of.
Yeah, there was
so this
one of my teachers saying the more we spread one of these things, or this type of thing, the greater the morphic field becomes, the mass consciousness of it. And I remember Richard saying that once upon a time it would take what could be taught to somebody in the space of a few weekends used to take years of training. But he believed it was because more and more people were being taught it. So it was expanding the mass consciousness, or expanding the morphic field of that practice. So that might be what you've been doing all this time.
Something like that's happening. It's really quite a delightful development. I'm very happy about it. So anyway, I think this is what you needed to hear. You need to talk more about that. No. So I'll send you a link to get your decision influences assessment, and then we'll kind of figure out, where to go from there as we go along. And yeah, great to be reconnected with you.
Yes, and you as well. And thank you very much for this session today. And I'll let you know what's going on. There's something that I'm going to start working on, which I'll keep under my hat just for the moment, but it could blow into something quite large and could help quite a lot of people, especially younger people who really need to get this stuff. And I've still got in the back of my mind from all those years ago, your passion around the global campaign for emotional competence.
Emotional competence.
That's still going on in the back here.
Well, I have this not only feeling, but actually very clear perception of that all of that is coming. there's going to be, in the not too distant future, there's going to be some fabulous support for having all this kind of stuff occur. And we're going to need all the training intensive power that we can get of people like yourself and others, so that we can really, it's great that you're feeling something similar as well, because this is kind of a remembering of the future. I think it's really coming now.
I think it is.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Great. Thank you very much again.
This is really, I want to just say that the reason we couldn't clarify the intention in the beginning, I can now see what it is. And what it is that there needs to be a shift for you from this thinking about what to do to allowing yourself to be more in this process of simply allowing it to come as knowing in its own perfect timing.
Okay.
So, and the freedom practice is a way to actually support that process happening.
Okay.
So you need to get good at making this distinction between the ego and emotionally pain-based thoughts as opposed to the intuitive and practical ones. And the way to do it is to start with the first phase, with the muscle testing. You don't have to think about it, that it will just naturally start to integrate into your life. Okay? And send me your report daily. I'm just going to do this for you for a while as a friend. Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much for that.
You're welcome. Yeah, I have a really kind of honoring respect for you and for how your involvement and approach to this work is, and so I'm happy to do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very honored for that.
Has kind of a feeling of completion now, huh?
Yeah. That's good.
Let's check it out. Something else we need to do for tonight's session? Nope.
No.
We're done.
All right then.
Fantastic.
Well, you have a great rest of the evening, and I look forward to speaking with you and having a look at that decision influence assessment as well.
Yeah, we'll get that. I'll get you the link. We'll get that going, and I really look forward to. I can just sense and feel your very close involvement with all of this expansion. We're going to do some stuff together, I'm sure. It'll be great. So I look forward to that.
All right then. I'll speak to you very soon then, Tom.
Take care.
Bye.
You bet. Bye.